dipping on taxes and the government waited, what, 15 years for the New York Times and ProPublica to do a story on it before we even see any action?
You know, if I had my way and you put me in charge, I never wanted to be a dictator for a day like some others. But what I would do is turn the criminal justice system on its head. You know, we do a very good job at going after somebody who snatches a purse or sells a rock of crack, particularly when they are, you know, folks without any power or influence or connections or wealth. Often they are, you know, our minority brothers and sisters. Boy, we go at them like gangbusters, but we lay off the ruling class criminals. I, for one, would turn the criminal justice system on its head. Why? Because if you sell a rock of crack or you snatch a purse, don't get me wrong, those are not victimless crimes. And we need to pay attention to the experience of the victims in each and every crime. But when you talk about the ruling class criminals, the billionaires who are committing crime, they will do damage to large swaths of the American population. As far as I'm concerned, that's where we should be focusing our law enforcement efforts, on the people doing the most harm, on the people creating the most victims in our country. I would turn our priorities on their heads, and I would start to actually equally apply the law to everybody. Then again, I don't think I'm ever going to be dictator for a day.
Glenn, let's finish off with this. Practically speaking, I think, you know, based on what you've said, based on what we can all see, it's highly unlikely that the federal government will decide to go after Donald Trump for this $100 million in double dipping on tax breaks. But if the state of New York went after him, where would we most likely see a lawsuit emanating from? Would that be Letitia James? Would it be Alvin Bragg?
You know, I feel like Letitia James has done her part. She has stepped up. She brought a massive fraud lawsuit, not a prosecution, but a lawsuit to try to recover some of the money that, you know, Trump and company bilked the New York taxpayers out of. And she won an enormous judgment against Donald Trump, about $500 million. Of course, Donald Trump is also laboring under an $83 million judgment that was won against him by E. Jean Carroll. So here he may end up, owing another $100 million in back taxes to the federal government. Maybe they can take it out of his prison pay after he gets convicted. After he gets convicted in one or more of his
at a rate of
what,
like $2 a day.
Yeah, they'll get about 10 cents a day.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, you know, I feel like enough with the civil suits being brought against Donald Trump. Not that I would sort of dismiss anybody who has a winning cause of action against Donald Trump, but, you know, at this point, it's all about deterring this kind of conduct. And the way to most directly deter not only Donald Trump, but others who would choose to follow in his footsteps is to prosecute them for their crimes. So, you know, if there are cases to be brought based on this latest revelation, I sure hope the evidence supports bringing criminal prosecutions against him, not just trying to claw back some of the money that he never should have received in the first place.
Right. The whole point should be that there has to be some deterrent here so that he and people like him don't just keep thinking that this is okay, because that's the message that they're getting right now. Not just on the tax stuff, but basically on everything. I mean, there's a reason that Donald Trump is so quick to try to engage in the same activities, election undermining activities that he engaged in 2020. That's because we have been so slow to prosecute the guy. The fact that we can't deliver swift accountability, all it does is serve to embolden the very criminals who committed these crimes in the first place. With that said, we'll continue to keep an eye on this. It is, you know, a pretty sad commentary on the state of criminal justice in this country that it takes the New York Times and ProPublica to unveil what's happening here before the federal or state governments will actually do something to make up for it. But again, we'll keep an eye on it, and hopefully we do see some movement so that, again, to the exact point I was making, we don't continue to embolden these criminals like Donald Trump. With that said, I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
And I'm Glenn Kirshner.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown.
Detecting additional hostile contacts. Hostiles are opening a supply drop. Incoming hostiles detected. Supply drop detected. Detecting additional hostile contacts.